Welcome to the Leverage Factor, where we explore how family, faith, and future all connect to leadership. I'm your host, Bishop Charley Hames Jr., and today's episode is deeply personal. My guest is not only an emerging voice in leadership, an executive assistant in my own office, and a proud student at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. She's also my daughter. Jael is a young mother to Maxton, a multidimensional thinker, high emotional intelligence, and a bold truth teller, navigating what it means to grow up in purpose without being boxed in by it. Today we're talking about legacy, and not as history, but as something unfolding in real time. Jael, welcome to the Leverage Factor.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I know this conversation is going to be bold, it's going to be interactive, but just we're talking really as father and daughter.
Right.
So you've grown up in a front row seat to leadership, faith, and service, literally your whole life. In fact, the reason a few days, I always tell this story, you probably get embarrassed by it, but literally I fed you a bottle, and then 2 days later I was on a flight to the West Coast, Los Angeles, and you've literally been, as long as you've been born, I've been in California. So let's talk about how this has shaped your view of influence.
Well, it shaped my view of influence. Well, simply just watching you growing up, how you showed us how to be a leader, not through just performing or anything, but just the way you actually serve people. Even after church, watching as a pastor, how you would stay after church to actually fellowship with your members and also even pray with people who are desperately in need. Just the way you showed up for your members after service would be over every Sunday, literally, and just showing your care towards them. That was you showing us how to be a leader. And most importantly for me is just you always practice what you preach, and while also showing that, you're not perfect, but, still trying and doing your best. It was always what was important.
Absolutely. And one of the things I think is critical, especially as a preacher's kid and now a bishop's daughter, in many respects, a lot of times PKs run away from the church. I don't want to have anything to do with the church. And these last few years of your own life, I've seen how you've embraced your faith, how you send the family chat room scriptures every other morning is amazing to me. It makes me feel like I did something right. I don't know if I did or didn't. But what does that mean to you in the context of legacy? What does legacy mean to you, not just as a daughter, but as now as a mother?
Legacy to me, I would say, first of all, you've shown me that it's not just a chapter. It's not ever going to be the end. It's something that you keep doing. Like for me, you've paved the way, and now with the opportunity I have with my own son, I get to keep on creating and showing him that legacy continues, and it keeps on getting better. It doesn't just stop. It's not nothing that's necessarily always left behind, but you get that chance to show it in the world every day.
Yeah, that's amazing, because that's literally what legacy is all about, is that you're paving a way, you're leaving something behind, but more importantly, as you said, you are creating a pathway for the future. And the prayer is that he'll grow up to be a wonderful young man who understand at some point the sacrifices that you've made, but the sacrifices that the family has made to create a way for him to even have the life that he has. Quite naturally, now he's too young to understand. All he wants is juice and crackers. But hopefully he'll understand that life is much more than just those menial moments. What's one thing people assume about you as the bishop's daughter that you had to unlearn or redefine? In fact, if I could just share a couple of stories. You have two older siblings, your brothers, and they was more protective of you. But I remember why, because it felt like you were preyed upon to say, okay, what your daddy thinking, what's going on in the household? And, because you were such a truth teller, you just tell what you felt, not understanding it might have consequences. So that understanding, what people assume about you as a bishop's daughter, that's not true or is true.
I would say they would assume that I am a bit snarky, not saying that like, you know, as self-depreciating, but just more so that I'm higher up. And the thing about that is that I know who I am and the way I walk every day. And that's not ever, of course, thinking that I'm on top of anybody, but I will happily say that knowing that God favors me, I get to live in my truth by that. And that I'm sure they think tons of things, and not everything is always said, of course, but people also judge with their eyes. But I live my truth every day while also being covered by God himself. So that's the way I choose to lead, and also leading in love with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's actually profound, because most people don't like to live in their truth. They live to please others. They live to manage the optics by what other people say. I would say the fallacious, one of the most egregious statements that people make that is so untrue. I don't care what anybody think. That's a lie. Most people care about what you think and how you perceived and what people think about you. But the greatest liberation or the greatest freedom is to really just to live in your truth and to understand God favors you. And the good thing about the favor of God, it does not have pretext. There's no pre-requirements. There's no limitations. God gives it to you freely because he loves you. And I think understanding that level of love is really what leadership is. Exactly. Is walking in that. I want to kind of, I guess, spice up the conversation a little bit, just to break molds or modalities. You were not a teenage mother. However, you were a full adult, 20 years old. And while you and I had a wonderful childhood and a rocky, I'll call mid-teenage time, where I had to do a whole lot of praying, whether or not you shall live or die. But the reality was something happened at kind of a real vulnerable time. I was offering myself for the office of bishop. I was running around the country and trying to get delegates to vote for me in the States and in Africa and Haiti, Jamaica. And then I remember you invited me out for a lunch, which was odd and weird. But you dropped something on me at the age of 20. You said, "Hey, Dad, I'm with child." What was going through your mind at that time? And, tell us about it.
I would definitely say fear, a whole lot of it. I didn't know what to think or, expect. So just more so like, oh my gosh, I don't want to break my dad just because of how much I cared about you then. I still care about you. But, just knowing how life-changing that is as well. And I just didn't really know what to expect. But the biggest thing I will say I was thinking about is, like, I don't want this to, like, ever destroy our relationship. And, yeah, just a whole lot of fear. I'll definitely say that. Of course, thinking the worst. And then no daughter, of course, especially when you have a great relationship with your dad, will ever want to, disappoint your father. And I will gladly say that was not the case. Just how good you've been to me my entire life, but definitely in that most sentimental and vulnerable time of my life, like, you showed up, like, and you pretty much proved my fears wrong. And especially when more and more people were starting to find out and were trying to bring me down, you continued to pray with me whenever I called you, and also just keep me in high spirits, even when it felt impossible. And that, like, will forever stay with me, just because during those times, that's like, you always, of course, remember how somebody responds or treats you, or just the way they love you, or, whatever actions. But it was fear was going through my mind the most.
What was you afraid of?
Just that we would not have a relationship anymore. That was like probably the first and only thing that I thought about. And that's just also with other people projecting their fears onto me. Yeah.
So kind of hearing those voices kind of created I would call a false narrative that you kind of bought into, you would say?
Right.
You know, and after you got past that moment, what changed for you? Did anything change, or you still had that little bit in the back of your mind, or you was like, no, that's not my reality? What made you, something clicked in you, something changed?
It was just more so how God was just showing me, like, this is the person that's there for you, and then these are the people that aren't. And you, out of many people, were there for me. And didn't, take the opportunity, even as other people may have felt like they had one, but to just, try and tear me down, say, hey, like, you're not going to be able to go to school anymore, or do all these things that you already have planned out for your life. Like, you weren't saying, hey, your life is on hold now. You're just like, hey, this don't stop anything. As you reminded me and gave a realistic example, you had 3 kids in college and have gone further and further. Like, nothing stopped you at all. So
that was in seminary, not in college. Just want to edit that real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah. But basically,
it was tight, but it was right. Go ahead.
But just basically that what clicked was just the simple reminder that my life isn't on hold. No matter how many times people try to tell me that, or and even simply just try and take the joy I had for the fact that I was even having my son away. You reminded me that it was just a blessing.
Hey family, this is Bishop Charley Hames Jr., and I'm here to talk about my latest book, the 4th book, The Leveraged Leadership, Unlocking the Power of Influence, Impact, and AI. The difference between your leadership being elite or ordinary depends on how you leverage, influence, impact, and how you embrace innovation. This book that I wrote will change the difference in your leadership approach and your leadership effectiveness. So I encourage you to go online now and get The Leveraged Leadership by yours truly. You can find it on all platforms, but please go to drcharleyhames.com to find your book. That's drcharleyhames.com to get your copy now. It will bless you and change your life. So you've been studying, you've been parenting, a very active little boy, working all at once. I mean, what keeps you focused when the pressure starts to stack and you want to feel like you want to crash out and give up? What keeps you focused?
Honestly, prayer does. And I will say I definitely have my moments where it definitely feels like it's impossible. However, I believe in prayer, and it's been like the best thing for me, the best medicine. God has been my medicine, but definitely to push me through the days, prayer and discipline, and then also I have a planner. I get one up to date every year. But praying and just simply staying close to God for me is what keeps me motivated, knowing that He hasn't failed me. And I'm not going to say yet because I know He won't. And just knowing I have an opportunity every single day that I wake up to keep going and to keep striving for what I want. And just also simply knowing the life that I want and currently have, and knowing what I want for my family keeps me going every day.
That's amazing. That's a lot of young people at your age don't think like that. They use what they see on Reels and Instagram to try to determine as the mode to which you live. And one of the things that we know and realize, that's not reality. A lot of people are taping scenes and reels in cars and homeless, or living in a shelter, trying to wait for that right viral moment to change their life, and sometimes it never happens. But to be grounded in faith and grounded in prayer and grounded in purpose is super amazing during this time. So you're raising Maxton in a world that moves fast, judges hard. What kind of foundations are you trying to give him now?
To stay true to him, stay true to who he is, and then definitely also making sure he keeps God first. Not saying that just to say that, but when you keep investing in your faith in God, not saying that it's transactional, but basically saying that you just realize and you see how much he shows up for your life. But simply just staying true to himself, his fun, free spirit that he is right now, that I know will develop as he grows up. But that's a path that I'm creating for him, that he doesn't have to persuade nobody to like him or, prove himself that he's a good person, for somebody to want to, be all around him and, up over him. But that staying true to who he is and not putting on a performance for anybody, that's the best thing.
Okay, here's an organic moment. I'm just going to drop this, and I just want you to respond to it. Your name is Jael, which is a Hebrew name. I was fortunately blessed to name all of you all. Probably put too much on some of you all than others. But your name literally means mountain goat. Your name comes from a story in the book of Judges where Jael took a peg and stabbed it in the head of the man and saved the children of Israel. Do you see any of those traits in you? Do you see the traits in you that's centered around not stubbornness but righteous indignation? Do you see any traits of persistence? Do you see any traits of knowing when to take a stab at life or not? Let's talk about that. What does your name mean to you?
Well, it's actually a few things I want to say about that. One of them is that in the book of Judges, the scripture does say that Jael will be blessed above all women. And for a very long time, I never
Sell some oil on that.
understood what that actually meant until I actually had Maxton and went through an unspeakable situation. But basically, I will say, just dealing in different areas of my life, dealing with women, older, same age, doesn't matter, but that were envious of me and not in the right way. And what I will also, the second thing I'm going to say, just to tie it in together, is that God blessed me with the gift of discernment, which I'm actually very happy about. But the tricky thing about that was, as long as I've had it, when I was around the time going to give birth to Maxton, my discernment got blindsided by ignorance, just because I became, of course, angry, just a bit fueled from a situation I was dealing with. And that's when I definitely had to reconnect with God. And he showed me a lot. And also, once again, understanding what my name actually meant, especially coming out of the Bible, of being blessed above all women, is that there are women out there that were seeing things in me that I wasn't seeing, that they may have wanted or whatever the case is, but didn't treat me too kindly because of that. And also within that same scripture, just I felt a bit of I would say protected in a way by other women as well that cared for me, just had a covering pretty much over me. But I feel like I was definitely starting to live my name as I got over, especially in the last few years.
Yeah. So, Jael, when you look at your future career, calling, and family, what do you feel God is preparing you for?
I feel like he's preparing me for mentorship, just because I know I have a testimony that will help out a lot of other young moms. And just simply when it comes to young moms in school, like me, just in college, just to be able to guide and help in ways, especially emotionally, just because I know mentally sometimes life can feel very draining. But definitely I would say mentorship, and just to be a sister for somebody.
That's amazing. What has been the hardest lesson to learn walking beside influence? And what's been the biggest blessing? So the hardest lesson and the biggest blessing.
The hardest lesson, I would say feeling like, well, here, I'll just put it like this. I felt like for a very long time I had to please people. Not because I wanted them to like me or anything, maybe a small percentage, to be honest, but more so that's just how I thought I was supposed to navigate life. And in a way I was just like kind of trying to buy into life without realizing that there are ways to do it that are definitely priceless and won't do no harm to yourself as just a human being. And so the biggest blessing I would say when it comes to that is that kind of going back to what I was saying about how I want to raise Maxton, but just learning to stay true to myself and leading how I was led, and then also teaching what I do know when it comes to leadership is simply being kind to people, knowing right from wrong, and then also always staying accountable, meaning that it's okay to own up to mistakes, because there are people out there that just try and be a leader but never actually teach anybody anything but to be responsible and stuff like that.
Yeah, we see that on a daily basis. Yeah. So what's your leverage factor, the personal gift or truth you're using to shape your life on your terms? So what if somebody was to ask you, say, what's Jael's leverage factor? What would it be?
I would say my leverage factor is staying true to myself. And
Authenticity.
yes, being authentic, not putting on a show, and knowing who I am, standing on who I am, knowing that I'm not perfect, and just like they say in the book of Luke, that we walk this earth imperfectly, so it's no reason to judge others. I actually stand by that. And also giving people grace, even if they don't deserve it. But once again, I know who I am. I'm not saying you also got to give an arm and a leg, but just living by that.
Sounds good. So here is our rapid fire round.
Okay.
All right, so you got 5 minutes. So it's whatever comes to mind. There's no perfect answers. Just spit it out.
Okay.
All right. One word to describe motherhood.
One word to describe motherhood: journey.
Journey.
Yeah, it's a journey.
All right. All right. That's good. A song that always put you in a focused mood. Nothing ratchet. I'm just teasing. No, go ahead.
I'll actually, for me lately, it's not just one song, but it's two. Blessed and Highly Favored by the Clark Sisters, and then also Thank You For It All by Marvin Sapp.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's a little oily. Okay. A little churchy. I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Best advice your father gave you that you actually use. Now, I want to hear this one.
That I actually use is
Yes.
learning to be quiet, not always having to try and fight for justice for myself in situations, especially knowing what's true of what's right and wrong. But just watching you as a child growing up, how people always tried to come for you, or even hopping on the bandwagon and stuff. You never fought back or tried to fight for your name because you knew who you were at the end of the day.
Right.
And just knowing that you were blessed, period, point blank.
Yeah, absolutely. The best response is not to give a reaction.
Right.
Right. If you learn that, you're winning. Here's the last rapid fire question. One thing you want Maxton to say about you 20 years from now.
That he's proud of me.
That's
that
amazing.
My mom did the darn thing.
Hey, you could have said something else too. But darn works too.
Yeah.
All right, Jael, this has been a crazy but good interview. I just want you to know in front of all of these people who may watch this that I'm super proud of you. You are resilient. You've grown and you've matured. into a wonderful young woman, and I'm excited about your future and your possibilities to see not only the princess you are, but the queen that you're going to grow into. So continue to keep the faith, continue to look forward, and remember, you got a leverage factor.
Yes.
All right. Anything you want to say to the audience?
I guess stay prayed up. I will say that, and stay in your lane. That's the only way you can go about it. So,
All right.
yeah,
You stay in your lane, you won't have a crash or accident.
right.
All right. But you can move as slow, as fast as you want to.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this. This has been amazing. All right. Love. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. This is Bishop Charley Hames Jr. This is the Leverage Factor. I look forward to sharing with you our next episode. I'm telling you, it's going to be good. You don't want to miss this, but tell people if they have not been a part of this to subscribe to YouTube, to TikTok, to Instagram, to Facebook. We're doing the doggone thing. We want you to be a part of the Leverage Factor. God bless you. Peace.